I worked as a night watchman on a cattle ranch in Montana for about 3 years. It wasn't glamorous work, but it paid well, and I didn't mind the solitude. Most nights were quiet, just me, the stars, and a few hundred head of cattle. The ranch was big. Several thousand acres, multiple barns, equipment sheds, grain storage. My job was simple. Drive the perimeter every hour, check the barns, make sure nothing was out of place. This happened in October. Cold nights, early frost. I started my shift at 10 p.m. Did my first perimeter check, everything normal. Around midnight, I did my second check. The cattle in barn 3 were restless, not panicked, just uneasy, moving around more than usual. I walked through the barn with my flashlight. Everything looked fine, no open gates, no injuries, nothing out of place. But the cattle kept shifting, watching me. I'd worked with cattle long enough to know when something was bothering them. I went back to my truck, made a note. Barn 3 cattle restless, no visible cause. At 1 a.m., I did my third check, worse this time. Some of them were backing up against the far walls of their stalls. A few were making distressed sounds. I walked through again, slower. That's when I smelled it. Something wrong. Like meat left out in the sun. But underneath that, something else. Something I couldn't place. I followed the smell to the back corner. Storage area back there. The door was open. I hadn't opened it. Nobody should have been back there at night. I pulled out my radio. Night watch, I've got an open door in barn 3 storage. Checking it out. Copy. Be careful. I pushed the door open wider. Shined my flashlight inside. Nothing. Just hay bales and old equipment. The smell was stronger here. I stepped inside. That's when I heard breathing. Heavy. Ragged. Coming from behind the hay bales. Security! Come out! The breathing stopped. I waited. Nothing. I moved forward, circling around the hay bales. That's when I saw the blood. Not a lot, just a trail, leading from behind the hay bales toward the back wall. I followed it. It ended at the wall, just stopped. No body, no person, nothing. I backed out and radioed the manager. He said he'd call the sheriff. While I waited, I stayed in my truck. Doors locked, watching barn 3. The cattle were going crazy, bellowing, crashing against their stalls. The manager arrived, then 2 sheriff's deputies. We went through the storage room together. The blood was still there, still leading to the wall. One deputy knocked on the wall. Solid. No hollow spaces. We checked the entire barn. No sign of anyone. The deputies took photos, said they'd send the blood for testing. Probably animal blood. But that didn't explain the breathing. The manager asked if I wanted to finish my shift. I said yes. But I didn't go back into barn 3 that night. The blood test came back a week later. Human. Type O positive. No match in any database. The cattle in barn 3 were moved to a different barn. They calmed down immediately. Nobody uses barn 3 anymore. The owners keep it locked. Officially, it's because of structural concerns. But sometimes, when I drive past barn 3 at night, I can see a light moving inside. There's no electricity running to that barn. I grew up on a corn farm in Iowa, worked there every summer through high school and college. Harvest season was always the busiest time. This happened during my last harvest before grad school. I was 22. Late September. The corn was ready. We had maybe 2 weeks to get it all in before heavy rain. I was running the combine harvester, working the north field, 80 acres, corn as far as you could see. The combine is loud. You can't hear much over the engine. You're basically alone in this bubble of noise. I'd been working for about 3 hours when I saw something in the corn ahead of me. Just for a second, a shape, like someone standing in the field. I blinked and it was gone. I kept working. An hour later I saw it again. Same thing. A figure standing in the corn, maybe 50 feet ahead. I stopped the combine and climbed down, walked over to where I'd seen it. Nothing. Just corn. I got back in and kept working. Around 4 p.m. I had to refill the diesel tank, drove back to the equipment shed. My dad came over. "How's it going?" "Good. Maybe halfway done." He nodded. "See anything unusual out there?" I looked at him. "Like what?" "One of the guys said he saw someone walking through the corn this morning. Thought it might be a trespasser." I didn't mention what I'd seen. I went back to the north field. The sun was getting lower, long shadows across the corn. That's when I saw the figure again. Closer this time, much closer, standing right at the edge of the cut corn, watching me. I stopped the combine. The figure didn't move. I honked the horn. Still didn't move. I climbed down, angry. Whoever this was, they were leaving or I'd call the cops. I started walking toward them. "Hey, this is private property." The figure took a step backward, into the uncut corn. "You need to leave, now." Another step backward. I kept walking. I was maybe 30 feet away. That's when I realized something was wrong with the way they were standing. Too still, too rigid. I stopped. The figure tilted its head, slowly. Then it turned and walked into the corn. Didn't push through the stalks, just disappeared. I stood there, every instinct telling me to leave. But I needed to know. I walked to where it had been standing. The corn was undisturbed. No footprints, no broken stalks. I pushed into the corn, following it. The stalks closed in. Suddenly I couldn't see the combine. Couldn't see anything. I stopped. This was stupid. I turned around. That's when I heard breathing, right behind me. I spun around. Nothing. Just corn. But I could still hear it. I started walking quickly, then running. The stalk scraped against my arms, cut my face. I couldn't tell which direction I was going. I burst out and nearly ran into the combine. I'd made a complete circle. I climbed up, locked the door, sat there trying to catch my breath. Through the window I could see the corn swaying. There was no wind. I radioed my dad, said I was done for the day. I didn't work the north field again that season. Someone else finished it. They didn't report seeing anything. But when they finally harvested that field, there was a section that wouldn't cut. The combine's blades kept jamming. They had to cut it by hand. They found bones, old bones, human bones. The sheriff said they were probably from the 1800s. Some settler who died and was buried in the field. But I don't think so. I think they were much older than that. My uncle owned a small vegetable farm in Nebraska. The summer before my senior year, I stayed with him to help out. The farm wasn't big, maybe 20 acres. Tomatoes, corn, beans, squash. He had 3 scarecrows in the fields, standard ones. Flannel shirts stuffed with straw, burlap heads. I didn't think much about them at first, but after I'd been there about a week, I started noticing something. The scarecrow in the tomato field wasn't where it was supposed to be. Monday morning, it was at the north end of the field. Tuesday afternoon, it was at the south end. I mentioned it to my uncle. "Did you move the scarecrow?" He looked confused. "No, why?" "It's in a different spot." He shrugged. "Must have been the wind." But there hadn't been any wind. Wednesday morning it was back at the north end. Wednesday evening it was in the middle. Thursday morning I walked out to the field early, around 6 a.m. Wanted to check its position. It was at the north end. I worked in the barn most of the day. Didn't go back until 5 p.m. The scarecrow had moved, east end of the field now. Nobody had been out there. I'd been watching. I walked over to it, examined it. Same as always. Flannel shirt, jeans, burlap head, button eyes and stitched mouth. But something felt wrong, like it was looking at me. I grabbed the wooden stake and pulled it out of the ground, carried it to the barn. I wasn't going to let this keep bothering me. I leaned it against the barn wall and went inside. The next morning I went to the barn. The scarecrow was gone. I searched everywhere, couldn't find it. I walked out to the tomato field. It was back, same spot I'd taken it from. I told my uncle. He laughed, said one of the workers must be messing with me. But we didn't have any workers that week, just me and him. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about it. Around 2 a.m. I got up, looked out my window toward the fields. I could see the scarecrow, silhouetted against the moonlight. It was facing the house. I watched it for 20 minutes. It didn't move. The next morning, I walked out to check. The scarecrow was closer, maybe 10 feet closer to the house, still facing the house. That night, I watched again, even closer, another 10 feet. The next day, I took it out to the road, drove 5 miles away, left it in a ditch. That night I looked out the window. It was back, closer than ever, maybe 30 feet from the porch. I went downstairs, grabbed a baseball bat, walked outside. I swung the bat, hit the stake as hard as I could. It cracked. I swung again. It splintered. The scarecrow fell. I dragged it to the fire pit, threw it in, poured lighter fluid on it, lit a match. It burned. 10 minutes. Nothing left but ash. When I walked back to the house, I saw something in the field. Another scarecrow, same shirt, same head, same button eyes, standing in the exact spot. I left the next morning, told my uncle I had to get back to school early. I don't know if it's still there, but sometimes I dream about it, getting closer. I worked on my family's grain farm in Kansas for most of my 20s, about 500 acres of wheat and corn. We had 4 grain silos. 3 were new, used every season. The 4th one was old, built in the 40s. Nobody used it anymore. Too much rust, too many safety concerns. My dad always said we should tear it down, but that costs money. So it sat, empty, until I noticed the lights, late August. I was working late in the workshop. Around 10 p.m. I stepped outside. That's when I saw it, a light inside the old silo. Just a faint glow, moving back and forth behind the window near the top. I watched it for 5 minutes. The light would move, disappear, reappear. Someone was in there. I grabbed a flashlight and walked over. The door at the base was padlocked, had been for years. The lock was rusted shut, but the light was still moving above. I called out, "This is private property. Come out." The light stopped. Then it went out. Nobody came out. I called my dad. He said he'd check it out in the morning. The next day we cut the lock and opened the door. Empty. Just dust and old grain residue. We climbed the interior ladder. The hatch at the top was sealed shut. Couldn't be opened from inside. No way anyone could have been in there. But I know what I saw. A week later, I saw the lights again. Same time. Around 10 p.m. This time I just watched. The lights moved the same way, back and forth, up and down. I started seeing them every night, Always around 10 p.m., always lasting 10 or 15 minutes. I mentioned it to my grandfather. He got quiet. Then he told me a story. Back in 1953, a worker had died in that silo. Got trapped inside while it was being filled. By the time they realized he was missing, it was too late. They recovered the body, gave him a burial, but my grandfather said the man's spirit stayed. I didn't believe in ghosts, but I couldn't explain the lights. One night I decided to figure it out. Around 9:45 p.m. I positioned myself near the silo, phone ready to record. At 10 p.m. the lights started. I recorded them. Then I heard tapping, coming from inside, like someone knocking on metal. 3 taps, pause, 3 more taps, over and over. I walked closer. The tapping got louder. Hello? The tapping stopped. Then I heard a voice, muffled, distant. Help me. My blood went cold. I grabbed the door handle. It was locked. New lock we'd put on. I ran to the workshop, grabbed bolt cutters, ran back, cut the lock, threw open the door. The silo was empty. No lights, no person, no sound. I climbed the ladder, checked every level. Completely empty. I came back down. That's when I looked up at the window. A face was looking down, pale, pressed against the glass. I stumbled backward. When I looked again, it was gone. I told my dad everything the next morning, showed him the video. The video showed the lights. But when we enhanced it, we could see something else. A shadow. The shape of a man. My dad decided we were tearing down the silo. It took 3 days. When we got to the top section, we found something. A wallet. Old. Leather cracked and dry. Inside was an ID. The worker who died in 1953. We gave the wallet to his family. The lights stopped after that. The silo's been gone for 2 years now, but sometimes late at night I still hear it. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps. Coming from where the silo used to be. I worked on a sheep farm in Montana for 5 years. Small operation. About 200 sheep spread across 3 fields. My job was mostly routine. Feed them, move them between pastures, keep them healthy. We had problems with coyotes sometimes. That's normal. You lose a sheep here and there, part of the business, but this was different. It started in early November, cold mornings, frost on the grass. I went out to check the flock like I did every morning, counted heads, made sure everyone was where they were supposed to be. That's when I found the first one, a ewe, lying in the middle of the field, dead. I walked over to check it, see if I could figure out what killed it. No visible injuries, no blood, no signs of a struggle, just dead. I dragged it to the truck and took it back to the barn, called the vet. She came out that afternoon and examined it. Heart failure, maybe, she said, or shock. Hard to say without a full autopsy. I asked if it was worth doing an autopsy. She said probably not. Sometimes animals just die. I accepted that. 2 days later, I found another one. Same thing. No injuries, no blood, just dead in the field. Then another one the day after that. 3 sheep in 4 days, all the same, no visible cause of death. I called the vet again. She came back out, examined all 3 carcasses. This is strange, she said. They all look the same. No trauma, no disease symptoms, it's like they just stopped. I asked what could cause that. She didn't have an answer. Over the next week I lost 9 more sheep, all the same way. No injuries, no blood, just dead. I started staying up at night, watching the fields from the barn, trying to catch whatever was doing this. Looking back now, I'm not sure what I thought I'd do if I actually found something. I had a rifle, sure. But you can't shoot what you can't see. The first 2 nights nothing happened. The third night I saw something. Around 2 a.m. I was sitting in the barn with the lights off, looking out at the field through binoculars. The sheep were clustered together in the middle of the field. That's normal at night. They group up for protection. But as I watched, they started moving. Not running, just slowly drifting apart. Like something was pushing through them. I couldn't see what it was. Just the sheep moving away from something in the center of the flock. Then they stopped moving, stood completely still. All of them. I remember feeling my chest tighten. Something about the way they just froze like that. It wasn't natural. For maybe 30 seconds none of them moved, just stood there like statues. Then they scattered, ran in every direction, panicked. When they cleared, I could see something lying in the middle of the field where they'd been standing. Another dead sheep. I should have stayed in the barn, should have waited until morning, but I grabbed my flashlight and rifle and ran out to the field anyway. The sheep was still warm. Had been alive maybe 5 minutes ago. No injuries, no blood. I looked around the field, shined my flashlight in every direction. Nothing. No tracks. No signs of anything. Whatever had done this was gone. Or still there. Watching. That thought made my legs weak. I backed away slowly, kept my rifle up, kept my flashlight moving, made it back to the barn, locked the door. Didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I found 3 more dead, all in different parts of the field. I called the state agricultural department, told them what was happening. They sent someone out, a specialist, guy named Patterson. He examined the sheep, walked the fields, checked for tracks. No predator I know of kills like this, he said, and you'd see signs. Tracks, scat, something. This is clean, too clean. I asked what he thought it was. He was quiet for a long time, just stood there looking out at the field. I've seen this before, he said finally. 3 other farms last 2 years. What happened? He turned to look at me. First farm lost 80 head over 6 weeks. Second farm lost everything. 120 sheep. Third farm... He stopped. Third farm, the owner tried to stop it, stayed out in the fields at night with a shotgun. They found him 2 weeks later. Same as the sheep. No injuries, no blood, just dead. My blood went cold. The other farm shut down, he said. Sold out. Got out while they could. I suggest you do the same. He left that afternoon. Said there wasn't anything he could do. I kept losing sheep. 1 or 2 every night, sometimes 3. I tried moving them to different fields. Didn't matter. I tried keeping them in the barn at night. They died there too. I set up cameras, watched the footage every morning. The cameras showed the same thing I'd seen. The sheep would cluster together. Then something would move through them. Then they'd scatter. But the cameras never showed what it was. Just empty space moving through the flock. After 3 weeks I'd lost 42 sheep, nearly a quarter of the flock. I couldn't afford to keep going. I sold the rest of the sheep. Sold them cheap to a farm 2 counties over. Told the buyer what had been happening. He didn't believe me, thought I was trying to get out of a bad deal. He took them anyway. 2 weeks later he called me. They're dying, he said. Just like you said. No injuries, no blood, just dying. Get rid of them, I told him. Sell them, give them away, whatever. Just get them off your property. Why? What is this? I didn't have an answer. I don't know if he listened. I don't work with sheep anymore. Don't work on farms at all, but sometimes I think about those sheep. standing perfectly still in the middle of the field, and whatever was moving through them, something I couldn't see, something that might still be out there, following the flock. I worked on a hay farm in Kansas for 3 summers during college. We grew alfalfa and Timothy hay, cut it, baled it, stored it, sold it. Simple operation. The baler was old, built in the 70s, big square baler, made those huge rectangular bales you see stacked in barns. It worked fine, loud, but reliable. This happened during my 3rd summer, late July, middle of harvest season. We were running the baler in the south field. I was on the tractor pulling it. My boss, Frank, was following behind in the truck, stacking the bales. The baler jammed around 3 p.m. This happened sometimes. Hay would get stuck in the feed chamber and we'd have to shut it down and clear it out. I stopped the tractor and climbed off. Frank came over. "Same spot as last time?" he asked. "Yeah, feed chamber." We opened the side panel and looked inside. The hay was packed in tight. We'd have to pull it out by hand. We worked on it for maybe 20 minutes. Hot work. The metal was burning hot from the sun. Frank reached in deep to grab a chunk of hay that was stuck at the back of the chamber. He stopped, pulled his hand back fast. "What?" I asked. He didn't answer, just stared into the baler. I looked inside. There was something in there, mixed in with the hay, fabric, blue fabric. I reached in and pulled it out. It was a shirt, a work shirt, torn and dirty and packed in with the hay. Frank and I looked at each other. "Someone probably lost it in the field," I said. "Got picked up with the hay." Frank nodded, but he looked uneasy. We cleared the jam and kept working, finished the field by 6 p.m. The next day, we were baling the east field. Different field, different hay. The baler jammed again. Same spot. We opened it up, more fabric, a piece of denim this time, like from a pair of jeans. Frank pulled it out and threw it on the ground. "Someone's been throwing trash in our fields," he said, but his voice didn't sound convinced. We finished the east field that day, started the north field the next morning. The baler jammed around noon. We opened it up. This time, it wasn't fabric. It was a boot, a work boot. Old. Leather cracked and dry. And there was something inside it. Frank reached in and pulled the boot out. Looked inside. He dropped it immediately. Stepped back. I picked it up and looked inside. Bones. Small bones, like from a foot. We stopped working, called the sheriff. 2 deputies came out. They examined the boot, took it with them, said they'd send it to the state lab. We didn't run the baler for 3 days. Waited to hear back from the sheriff. When they finally called, they told us the bones were human, old, maybe 50 or 60 years old. They asked if we'd found anything else. We told them about the shirt and the jeans. They came back out, searched the fields, didn't find anything. They said the bones were probably from an old burial. Sometimes people buried family members on their property back in the day. The plow must have dug them up, and the baler picked them up with the hay. That made sense. We accepted it. But it kept bothering me. The shirt and jeans looked newer, not 50 years old. We started baling again, finished the north field, moved to the west field. The baler jammed on the second pass. We opened it up. More bones, bigger this time, looked like part of a rib cage, and more fabric. A jacket, canvas, with a name patch still sewn on it. The name was Miller. Frank stared at the jacket for a long time. "I knew a Miller," he said quietly. "Worked here about 10 years ago. Quit suddenly. Just stopped showing up one day." He paused, looked at me. Week before he left, he was acting strange, jumpy. Kept saying he saw someone following him in the fields. asked if I'd noticed anything. I told him it was probably just heat exhaustion. Maybe he left the jacket behind, I said. Frank shook his head. He was wearing it. Last time I saw him, day before he disappeared. We called the sheriff again. This time they sent more people. Detectives, crime scene techs. They searched the entire property, used ground-penetrating radar, searched every field we'd bailed. They found something in the west field, about 3 feet down, more bones, more clothes, and a wallet. The ID in the wallet belonged to James Miller, reported missing in 2015. They excavated the site, found a complete skeleton, buried in the field. The coroner said he'd been there about 10 years. Cause of death couldn't be determined. Frank told the police everything he knew. Miller had worked on the farm, left one day, and never came back. Frank had assumed he'd just quit and moved on. The police investigated, interviewed everyone who'd worked on the farm back then, checked Miller's background, looked for anyone who might have had a reason to hurt him. Nothing, no connections, no enemies, no motive. The case went cold after 6 months. They listed it as unsolved. But here's what bothers me. Miller said someone was following him in the fields, week before he disappeared. And the place they found him? It was right in the middle of the west field, exactly where we'd been working that week 10 years ago. Same field, same spot. I think whatever Miller saw in that field is what killed him, and I think it buried him there, 3 feet down, right where we'd never think to look. We don't bail the west field anymore. Frank sold that section of land, but sometimes I think about Miller, what he saw out there, what followed him. And I wonder if there are others, other fields, other bodies, waiting to come up through the bailer.